talk about doom and gloom. We've talked about this before. I mean, it keeps coming up. Conservatives are obsessed by this idea. And this is the 1954 idea. So I guess in this case, it was David Assman, who is a host of shows on Fox. Indeed, I used to appear on his show all the time in the old days. Old days, I mean 2008 to 2012. We used to be very friendly. I used to be in a show all the time. And, he was on Fox, and he had this diatribe. And let me just read you a bit of what he said. He said, Americans used to live a lot better with a lot less than they do now. In 1954, with a yearly salary of $3,500, equivalent to about $40,000 today, a man could have a 3-bedroom house, a couple of kids, a wife who didn't work, a car, a TV. You try getting anywhere near having all that on just $40,000 a year today. And it won't happen anywhere in the United States. We have lost the value that used to make American dream real for American families. And Donald Trump wants to get it back. And he sees trade as a way of doing that. Now, put aside the fact that trade tariffs are only going to make it worse. To the extent that there's anything in what David is saying, it's only going to make it worse. It's going to raise the cost of living. It's going to make everything more expensive. It certainly has nothing to do with the cost of housing. I agree, the cost of housing is ridiculous today. But it's not going to do anything to the cost of housing. Tariffs are not going to do anything, right? But this is such an asinine argument. The whole perspective that we keep hearing, we used to hear it from the left all the time. The 50s were the best era because everybody was unionized. We had strong unions. Wages were up. People lived a good life. They could earn without having, without going into debt. And of course, they could have a wife who didn't work. I don't think the left ever made that argument, but the right makes it all the time because that's their ideal, right? But let's actually take a look at 1954. 1954. So first of all, we're talking about somebody earning the equivalent of $40,000 today. There were a lot of people earning $40,000 in the equivalent of $40,000 in 1954. A lot fewer today. A lot fewer. The mean and median wage, income, both household and individual, is much higher today than it was back then. So fewer people are in this category. Indeed, as I've argued over and over again, the only reason the middle class has been hollowed out is because so many in the middle class have become rich. The number of people earning over 6 figures is significantly higher today than at any point in time. In real terms, adjusted for inflation. So fewer people making the 40,000, many more people making 6 figures. That's the beginning of the fallacy. But beyond that, let's look at these homes that we're talking about that a family could afford back then. A quarter of homes in 1954, 25% of all homes in 1954 had no flush toilets, had no showers or bathtubs. Half of all homes in 1954, half, lacked central heating. 27% of families had no cars. 27%. 33% had no televisions. We're not even going to dishwashers, washing machines, dryers. Almost nobody had those. I don't think washing machines were even dishwashers were even invented or certainly weren't prevalent. So, yeah, you could afford a small, the 3-bedroom house was much smaller than a 3-bedroom house today, by about 40%. So today, people live in much bigger homes. They have all these amenities they didn't have back then. All these amenities that make life so much easier. Now, granted, many of them don't have a wife that doesn't work. That amenity, many people have given up on. Maybe because women want to work. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Just a thought. Women want a challenge in their lives as well, and work is a challenge. And they go out and they want to be productive. In 1954, 34.4% of men whose wives were not in the labor force earned less than $3,500. So a third of women who stayed home didn't earn this much, and therefore couldn't afford all this stuff. And, you know, you could go on and on. They didn't have an internet. They didn't have, again, many households didn't have television. If they had television, it was black and white, and they had very limited channel choices. They didn't have Netflix. They didn't have Amazon. I mean, God, what are you talking about? I mean, you can talk about, on lots of different dimensions. You could look at the United States and say, maybe things were better in 1954. Maybe. But not on a material level. Overwhelmingly, it's not even close. Life is so much better today than in 1954 from a material perspective. I mean, cars didn't even have seatbelts. A lot more people got killed in car accidents. It's just, I mean, vacations. How many people went on vacations in 1954? And when they did go on vacation, it was somewhere close by. How many people flew in an airplane in 1954 to go on vacation? How many people went to Europe or Mexico or Latin America or Asia on vacation in 1954 as compared to today? I mean, think about what airline prices, tickets were like. Much more expensive in 1954 than today. And by the way, flying was a lot riskier, a lot more dangerous back then than it is today. How many people went to nice restaurants? I'm not talking about fast food, which existed. How many people went to nice restaurants, not a diner, something a little bit better than Denny's back in 1954? Very few. I know growing up, we almost never went out to eat. And today, people go out to eat all the time. And how do I know this? Because I see how many restaurants are out there. Thousands and thousands and thousands of restaurants. They make a living somehow. Somebody must go and eat there. So vacations, restaurant, leisure, Netflix, internet, not to mention flushing, toilets, showers, bathtubs, heating, dishwashers, washing machines. I mean, and David is not an idiot.
And to that, so
as I said, I know him. He used to have me on the show all the time. David Assman is not an idiot. But this nostalgia for the 1950s is insane. It is a lie. It is evasive. And it is just one more rationalization to say, I mean, this is the whole shtick of Donald Trump. Life sucks. It's terrible. Things are horrible, horrible, horrible. And the reason for that is trade with China and with Mexico and with Canada and with the European Union and with Singapore, which has zero tariffs and zero trade barriers with the United States, but now has to pay a 10% tariff. The evil, the reason things are so terrible today is because of illegal immigrants. The other countries, immigrants, they are the reason you are suffering. And hey, you're suffering. Wages are stagnant. You can't afford anything. life was so much better in the past, particularly if you go back to the 50s, and you know, that's what we should strive for. And the way to do that is to get rid of the other. We were great when it was just us. Who us is, I don't know. I mean, this is economic illiteracy. It's historically ignorant. It's historically stupid. But it's evasive because David knows better than this, and so does the host who interviewed David and could have made these comments to him. None of them. So just one other thing. I mean, everybody talks about cost of housing, how cost of housing is terrible, and nobody can afford a house. But the reality is, more Americans own their home today than did in 1970. I have stats going down to 1970. I think that's 1970. Let me just enlarge this. No, this is going back to 1965. Sorry, 1965. So I have stats going back to 1965 on home ownership. And in 1965, 63% of Americans owned a home. Owned their own home. And the number peaked just before the great financial crisis because the American government dedicated itself to getting more people into homes. They subsidized it. They gave out ridiculous loans and everything. And it peaked at 68%, 69%, somewhere around there. And today, it's at 66%. So more people own their home today than in 1954. A larger percentage of the population owned it in 1954. So how can we can't afford a home? Obviously, people can. Maybe they can't afford the home they want. Maybe they can't afford the home in the location they want, but they can afford the home. People are living in homes that they own. More of them are living in homes that they own than did in 1954. Now, people are unhappy. There's no question people are unhappy. People feel miserable. They feel like something's wrong. And it is. Something is very, very, very wrong. But it's not that their material well-being is deteriorating. It's not that they make less money. It's not that they can't afford stuff. I've talked about this over and over again. Things are very, very wrong because they feel alienated from the culture, because they don't understand the world around them, because the mixed economy gives them mixed signals in terms of what they should aspire to. They feel terrible because we have an educational system that hasn't taught them to think for themselves, that hasn't taught them to be ambitious for themselves. We have an educational system that has dumbed them down. People feel miserable because politicians keep promising them things they can't achieve, that they will never get. And they feel disappointed because they promised me my steel job back, and it never has come back. People feel angry and upset and unhappy because of the mixed economy and because of the ideas that are prevalent in the culture, the cynicism and the skepticism, the lack of values, the lack of long-term thinking, the denigration of reason, the denigration of self-interest. That is why they're unhappy. You're not going to fix that with tariffs. You're not going to fix that with more mixed economy. You're not going to fix that by raising taxes on them. You're not going to fix that by deporting illegal immigrants. You're not going to fix that by going after China. You're only going to make it worse, much worse. Because right now, Americans are still rich. Yeah, everybody should read Nathaniel Branden's essay on alienation in, I think it's Capitalism, Not Known Ideal. And it's brilliant, and it's absolutely right, that essay. People feel alienated because they've been betrayed by their intellectuals. People feel alienated because of the mixed economy. And the mixed economy, not only in economics, the mixed economy of the soul. A mixture of Enlightenment values with primitive Christian values. We live in a culture that is rich, where people are rich, and they have no appreciation of it. They have no measure of it. They have no self-esteem and pride in it. They just have stuff, and they don't know what to do with it. And they long for a day, I don't know, 50, 60 years ago. But they have no idea why they long for that. Because somebody's created a mythology around it. Also, remember 1954 is an era of Jim Crow laws in the South. And even the North wasn't great about racism. You had redlining going on. We're talking about an era that was fairly racist in America. None of us should harken back to 1954 as a model for anything. It's disgrace and despicable that they get away with this. Again, right now, this is the richest time ever. From a material perspective, best time to be alive ever. From a values perspective, only if you have good values. Most people do not. Most people don't know where to find, quote, meaning in their lives. And our intellectuals are betraying them, and that's where the alienation comes from. And again, I recommend the essay, I think it's in Capitalism, Not an Ordinary Deal, that Nathaniel Branden wrote, edited by Ayn Rand, about alienation. All right. So I wanted to say that about 1954. It keeps coming up, and it'll keep coming up. I mean, it's the rocking chair, what is it? Rocking chair conservatism. They just want the porch, rocking chair on the porch. They just want a calm life. They don't want competition. They don't want to be challenged. they're not ambitious. They're not ambitious. They don't want ambition. This is sadly now characterizing the right. The right now is very much the same as the left. Oh, Ayn Rand wrote an essay about this. She wrote an essay about everything. The divine right of stagnation. They want the divine right of stagnation. But they want the divine right of stagnation with people who look like them. No immigrants, please, no immigrants. And no stuff made in China. China, it's far away and they've got slanted eyes. I don't want stuff from China. I just want American stuff. American. People like me. People who look like me. And says Thoreau and Billy Joel wrote about lives of quiet desperation. Yeah, and they wrote about it a long time ago. I mean, there's always lives of quiet desperation. Now, maybe there are more people who live lives of quiet desperation today than there are in the past. I'm not convinced of that. But today, the people with quiet desperation have a movement. It's called MAGA, that they can get behind. And they can take their anger and their frustration and their fear and use that to lash out at people who look differently from them. In the 50s, they did the same thing. They lashed out at blacks. Now we lash out at immigrants and stuff made in China or Mexico or, God forbid, made in Canada, the real enemy. I mean, all of rock and roll is about rebellion and desperation, a rebellion against the system, wanting change. Yeah, because there is a real angst in the world. There's real angst. People don't understand the world because they don't have a guiding philosophy. That's the advantage we, some of us anyway, have. We have a philosophy. We understand the world. We don't need conspiracy theories. The world is very understandable once you have the right ideas.